فاعلم أنه لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Before we begin the dars today, I was listening to one of the great scholars speaking about some of the etiquettes of طلاب العلم and أساتذة, يعني the etiquettes of learning ilm and teaching ilm. And he was one of my own teachers as well, and he said something that I found very interesting, because sometimes we see our numbers here fluctuate. Sometimes, mashallah, we have especially on the dars of seerah and stuff, we have more than 150, 200 people. We count on the plates, and sometimes it becomes less. Sometimes the videos have more hits, sometimes less. So it's interesting. He said about one of the ulama of the past, one of the early great scholars of this ummah, that he gave a talk, and one of the students of knowledge, he came from very far away, but because in those times it was a difficult travel, he got delayed, not from his own laziness, but from natural reasons. So when he came, the Shaykh had just finished his talk, and he was going out. So he told him, Shaykh, I came from this long travel and long journey just to benefit from you, and qadar Allah ma sha'a fa'al, I missed it. So the Shaykh, while standing in the door of the masjid, he repeated the talk to him. When he was repeating the talk to him, he did it in the same manner, with the same zeal, with the same focus as he had given the first time. So some of the other tullab ilm, they became surprised by this. They said, Shaykh, you already gave the talk. When you were giving it again only for one person, you should have just kind of summarized it, gone over some of the highlights. He said, no, because the first time I gave the talk was only for one. For who? For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second time I gave the talk was still only for one. For who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is from the adab of the asatiza, the teachers. That when they give a talk, they shouldn't look at how many number there are. They should do it the same no matter what the numbers fluctuate. So we begin today with the 42nd, 43rd and 44th Asma al-Husna in the tartib that we are studying them. And mashallah, we're making good progress. There is 3 Asma are all related, and that's why we'll take them together. The first one, Al-Ali, and the second, Al-A'la, and the third, Al-Muta'al, the third. All 3 of these come from the root word of Ain, Lam, Waw. Ain, Lam, Waw. This is the root. Ali, you see it has a Ya in the end. Even though if we look at the sarf, if we look at the conjugation, it comes from a root word that has a Waw. Because al-Waw, al-Ya and Alif, these are the weak letters. They drop, they change. Al-A'la has Alif maksura at the end. And Muta'al is totally different in its setup. And we'll discuss, inshallah, the differences and meanings. If we look at a linguistic perspective, and there is the haqq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we'll discuss, but from a linguistic perspective, Ain, Lam, Waw, Ulu, it means loftiness, to exceed, to be above. And there's 2 linguistic meanings here. One is to literally be above. Even if you look at the word a'la, ala tawla, and if you look at that word, also if you look at the sarf, it can come together, meaning to be above something. And the other meaning, to be exceeding others in it. Even if you look at the word above in English, you could say that the sister section is above the brother section. And that's literally, it is above. But you could also say that he's above you in akhlaq, or he's above you in rank. A general is above a corporal in rank. And that doesn't mean that they're literally above, that means in status. The word ulu, the root word here, also has that meaning for both. When we look at al-ali, if you look at without the al-ma'rafa, or al-takhsis, istighraq, when we look at it without the al, whichever al we use from the different types in the Arabic language. Ali, like the name Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, meaning somebody who's above others, who's very good. And this was a name even in Jahiliyyah. Obviously Ali radiallahu anhu was not named after Islam, that the Arab used to keep. But there's a big difference between Al-Ali and Ali radiallahu anhu. Al-Ali has a al. And this, many of the ulama said, is al-istighraq, yani every complete form of greatness, of being above, yani in a way that nobody else can be, is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of the Rafidha and some of the others, they try to twist the things here. They say, look, one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ali. And this is wrong. It's Al-Ali. It's not just Ali, it is Al-Ali with the Alif Lam, unlike Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. And many of the Arab, they used to have names that may have in name the similarity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Hakim. There are many Arab, even from Jahiliyyah, their name was Hakim or Halim or any of these names. And it doesn't mean that they have anything with comparison to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody is compared to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, as we've discussed the usul already. Al-Ali, in the linguistic meaning, the one who is far above others in high rank. Al-A'la, on the wazn of Af'ala. Af'ala, this is the wazn here in the Arabic language, which means higher than. Like we say Allahu Akbar, Af'ala. A'la, and then Al-Muta'al, meaning the highest, showing a great amount. All three in linguistic meaning have a very close meaning. Now, when we look at the meaning having to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Al-Abbad Al-Badr, he writes that with regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are three aspects we look at with all three of these asma. And all three of them, they share them. One, ulu al-qadr, yani the highness or the greatness of the ability of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is above all His creation in His ability. We may rearrange something and call it a creation. Yani, if you go and build a house, you say, this is my creation. But in reality, where did you get the wood? Where did you get the cement? Where did you get the sand? Where did you get the bricks? Where did you get the nails? Where did you get the metal for the nails? All of that in the end was not yours. So you see, we may try to create something, but in reality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who is Al-Khaliq. Like this, we may be above each other in certain abilities. Somebody may be more able, they may be above somebody in their basketball skills. Somebody may be above somebody in memorizing. Somebody may be above somebody in their GPA and their grade point average. But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His ulu al-qadr is that He is above everybody to a level that nobody can even imagine or match. Ulu al-qahr, in that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above and far beyond and exalted in His power. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about His power, there is no comparison to the makhluk. And ulu al-dhat, and the ulu of the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala physically, He is above His creation. And when we talk about the dhat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we stick to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about Himself. This is a very important principle. We'll study it later in Lum'at al-I'tiqad as well, in the same book that we're doing right now. But this is important at this point as well to touch on these. When you talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, me and you don't have enough brain power, enough ability to try to rationalize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we shouldn't. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something about Himself in the Qur'an, or upon the lisan, upon the tongue of Mustafa alayhi salatu salam, we believe in it. That's it. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it, we believe in it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ta'ala. We say Allah ta'ala. Right? He's far above His creation, that's it. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, any sifa about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we believe in it, as it is. We don't need to try to rationalize it according to the laws of Aristotle or Ilm al-Kalam or any of these things, no. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it, He knows His dhat better than us. When we talk about Al-Ali in the Quran, it is mentioned 8 times. as we read in Surah Al-Baqarah, the 255th ayah, هو العلي العظيم. Ali here is mentioned. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْكَبِيرُ in Surah Al-Hajj. Ali al-Kabir is also come. إِنَّهُ عَلِيٌّ حَكِيمٌ. Here in Surah Shura, we see عَلِيٌّ حَكِيمٌ. When we look at the name Al-A'la, this is mentioned in the Quran twice. سَبِّحِ اسْمِ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى. We say this in the Quran. وَمُتَعَال is only once in the Quran. In Surah Ra'd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, عَالِمُ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ وَالْكَبِيرُ كَبِيرُ الْمُتَعَال. That's once in the Quran only. But all three of these asma are proven from the Quran itself. Now when we get to the meaning of Al-Ali or Al-A'la or Muta'al as the haqq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we always go back to the works of the earlier ulama. Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, he says about Al-Ali, ذو علو, يعني he is the one that has greatness. And he is the one that is above his creation with his qadr, by his power. And he is above his creation, فوق جميع خلقه كما وصفه به نفسه إنه على العرش وهو عال بذلك. يعني, and then he says that verily not only in his power and his grandeur and his ability, but also in his dhat, in his self, he is above the creation, as he has said about himself that he is upon his arsh, and that's something that he himself subhanahu wa ta'ala has described himself with. Ibn Kathir says, وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ تَحْتَ قَهْرِهِ وَسُلْطَانِهِ, يعني that everything is under the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَعَدْمَتِهِ, and his greatness. La ilaha illa huwa, and there is no ilah except for him. Wala Rabb siwa, and there is no Lord except for him. Ibn Kathir, he mentions this. Now when we look at the difference between Ali, Al-Ali, Al-A'la, and Al-Muta'al, there's a lot of opinions given by the ulama. The best of what I found is what many of the ulama of the Arabic language who specialized in the root words and their applications have put forward, which is Al-Ali dhal ala ulu al-dhat, wal-a'la dhal ala ulu al-shan wal-sifat, wa-muta'al dhal ala ulu al-qahr. What did they say? Al-Ali, when we say Al-Ali al-Azim, it points towards, it shows towards the greatness and the being above and far exalted that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and far above his creation in himself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a part of the makhluk. Even if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down to the last sama, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us, in the last part of the night, we believe in it. Why? Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the authentic hadith has told us. And if the Prophet ﷺ told us something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he knew better than us. He is the one that went on Isra al-Mi'raj. He is the one that Qur'an was revealed to. He is the one that the Prophet ﷺ taught. So when he said it, we believe in it. How? We don't ask. Because we don't know. We are not able to comprehend the how. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said so, we believe it. But we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made himself far superior from the makhluk. So we cannot say, na'udhu billah, as some of the people, the Jahmiyyah and others that went misguided, and the Mu'tazila and others that we'll discuss, they would say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, na'udhu billah, is within the makhluk, wahdatul wujud as they call it. That everything is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, na'udhu billah. Because that's not what we find in the Qur'an. Because this is the type of misguidance that leads people to then worship trees and worship graves, because they say everything's in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Na'udhu billah ta'ala, that He is Al-Azim, He is above all of that in His dhat. Al-A'la, this shows towards His shan and His sifat. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His might, in His ability, in His power, in His sifat, He is above all of His creation. And Al-Muta'al, Dhal ala al-ulu al-qahr. And then Muta'al shows that Allah's power and superiority is above all His creation. Nobody can match Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their power, in their essence, in their abilities. He is far above all of them, where there's not even a comparison. When we talk about the dhat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, many of the people, they have a misunderstanding here. And that's why inshallah, even though we'll discuss this more in detail later in the book, but here I will mention this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells in the Quran, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arsh istawa. That Ar-Rahman is ala al-arsh istawa. When we look at this ayah, many of the people today, even the ones who call themselves Ashari or Maturidi and others, they have a misunderstanding of this idea. And it amazes me that these same people who will not believe in this ayah as it is, they will try to make what they call ta'wil of it. They will try to give a different meaning than what is the zahir of it. Many of them claim to be following a madhab, claim to be following an imam, but they don't follow their imam in his aqidah. It's a very important point. Sometimes you meet a brother and he says, I'm Hanafi. Hardcore, die hard, I don't know, whatever. Everything that Imam Sahib said, that Imam said, Imam this, Imam al-Azam this, okay. But then when you ask him about where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gets upset. How can you ask this question? Why? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked this question. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere. A'udhu billah. Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell you that in His dhat? In His knowledge? No doubt. In His knowing, in His sight, in His hearing? No doubt. And we discussed this already. But in His dhat, in His self, na'udhu billah, you want to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, na'udhu billah, na'udhu billah. Look at the bathroom, look at places where we don't even mention the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we don't even take the Qur'an, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want to say in that? Na'udhu billah. That's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us he's above the arsh. He's above the arsh. Above the samawat. Where is arsh is above the samawat. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His Prophet told us that He comes down in the last part of the night, He comes down in the last part of the night. But last part of the night is different everywhere. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to do everything. Like Ibn Qudama, rahmatullahi alayh, when he was in a munadhara, in a debate with the Asharis. And it's a very famous debate. It's been recorded as well, meaning in writing, obviously not in audio or video, but in writing. When they told him, how can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on the arsh and also descending? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to do what He says. If He says so, it can be done. Our restrictions cannot be put on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They said, how can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak when you need a tongue and need lungs to speak? He said, na'udhu billah. This is for you that you need a tongue and lungs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of any of that. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He spoke to Musa, He spoke to Musa. That's our aqidah. We don't need to ask how. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made rocks speak. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made trees speak. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made other things speak. They didn't need tongues and lungs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is qadir on everything. But look at these people who claim they follow Abu Hanifa, or they claim a Shafi'i, or they claim Imam Malik. But if you talk to them, they will say, we're Hanafi in fiqh, Maturidi in aqidah. Why? If you're Hanafi in fiqh, why aren't you Hanafi in aqidah? They will say, we're Shafi'i in fiqh, Ashari in aqidah. Why? If you're Shafi'i in fiqh and Imam Shafi'i was such a great Imam, why don't you follow him in aqidah? If you go to Zaytuna, they say we're Maliki in fiqh, but Ashari in aqidah. Why? Imam Malik's aqidah is not good enough for you? If you look at these people, they will claim one thing, but in aqidah, in the most important of all of the aspects of Islam, they will not follow their imam. In everything they will praise their imam. When it comes to aqidah, they will not follow. If you tell them, Ar-Rahmanu ala arsh istawa, Allah is above His arsh istawa. If you tell them that, they will say, no, you can't restrict Allah in this and direction and up and down and this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it. We're not saying it. We're just mentioning to you what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Believe in it. But no, they will have to find some ta'wil. But what did their ai*imma say? So this is what I will mention to you from all four of the ai*imma. Abu Muti' al-Balkhi, one of the direct students of Imam Abu Hanifa, he says, I asked Abu Hanifa about a person who says, I do not know whether my Rabb is above the heavens or earth, or on earth. See, this is very important, because some of the Ahnaf now, when you ask them about this, they say, well, some of the ulama said this, some of the ulama said that. I cannot say any of them are wrong. Right? You brothers have heard this before? Right? Some of the ulama say he's above the arsh. They're all great ulama. I can't say, I don't know. So what about that? What does Abu Hanifa say about this? Abu Hanifa, rahmatullahi alayhi, and this is not my opinion, it's Abu Hanifa's opinion. Read it yourself. Abu Hanifa, rahmatullahi alayhi, said, a person who makes such a statement becomes a kafir. Becomes a what? A kafir. It's not my takfir, don't call me takfiri. I'm reading from Abu Hanifa. He said he becomes a kafir because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ar-Rahmanu al-Arsh istawa. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this, and He has mentioned this in many ayat, then if somebody doesn't believe in it as it is, he says, I don't know, and Allah has said it, he's become a kafir. Abu Mut'i al-Balkhi, he says, I further asked Abu Hanifa, what if such a person admits that Allah is above His arsh, but he says, I do not know whether His arsh is above the samawat or on earth or where? Abu Hanifa says that if he denies that the arsh is above the samawat, he is a kafir. Subhanallah. This is from Abu Hanifa. So the aqidah of Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi himself is Allah is above His arsh in a way that befits His majesty and honor without asking how, believing in it as has been revealed in the Qur'an, as many ahadith have reported, as many Sahaba have reported. And inshallah I've collected many of these ahadith and aqwal of Sahaba. When we get to this mas'ala in itself, we will inshallah present them with their references. Imam Malik, Abdullah ibn Nafi', the son of the great scholar An-Nafi', he reported that Imam Malik bin Anas said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above the arsh, but His knowledge, it is everywhere, and nothing escapes His knowledge. In His dhat, He's above the arsh, but His ilm and His seeing and His hearing is everywhere. There's no place free from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knowing what's going on there, seeing what's going on there, hearing what's going on there. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is far great, far exalted to in His dhat be in places that are not befitting Him. Except when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself told us He is, like the arsh or like His descension. Except for these things, we don't give other meanings. We leave it where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left it. Imam al-Shafi'i. Now I wonder, and this is being recorded inshallah, the brothers from Zaytuna and other places are watching this. I wonder, what do they do with the aqwal of Imam Malik when they talk about him so much, but then in ilm al-kalam they go and make ta'wilat and they get rid of the meanings that are zahir. Imam Malik, once he was asked about istawa, kayf istawa? How is he reclining, making istawa on the arsh? Imam Malik, look at his response. He said, al-istawa ma'lum. Istawa, this is known. It's in the Qur'an. There's no denying it. Well, kayfiyya hu majhul. And how? This is unknown. We don't ask. How? How can that be? According to the laws of physics and laws of Aristotle and Greek philosophy, who cares? This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's not bound by any of that. Kayfiyya, it's unknown. We don't ask how. It is ma'loom, we believe in it, it's in the Qur'an, we don't ask how. And he said this type of questioning, of saying how, this is bid'ah. And many of the different narrations mention either he told the person that you seem like a mubtadi' to me and he was taken out. Some of the narrations mentioned that he was ordered to be beaten and taken out of the masjid, meaning he hated this question. How? How can you ask how? The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Qur'an is enough for us. So what do these people do with all these aqwal of their own a'imma? Imam al-Shafi'i said, the aqidah, the creed, the iman that I have, which is that I hold, is that of the Muslims before me. Yani, those salaf al-salihin before me. That I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His messenger, and that Allah is above His arsh, which is above the samawat. He descends to the lowest samawat whenever He wishes. This is the aqidah that Imam al-Shafi'i himself. Ibn Khuzaymah, the great scholar who wrote the book of Hadith, who was also a Shafi'i in fiqh and aqidah, he says, whoever does not believe this, whoever doesn't acknowledge that Allah is above His arsh, which is above the sab'a samawat, above the seven samawat, then he has separated, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has separated Himself from His creation, from His makhluq. that He's above all that. Except when He wants to descend, He descends in a way that befits His majesty and honor, as He has told us. Whoever does not believe this is a kafir. Not my takfir. Ibn Khuzaymah mentioning this. Now, he continues, such a person is ordered to make tawbah, to repent, and if he does not, then he is given the punishment of the murtad in deen, and he is not considered from the Ahlul Qibla, and nor is he considered from Ahlul Dhimma. He is not considered from Ahlul Dhimma either. Abu Bakr Muhammad al-Tamimi, also a great Shafi'i from the Shapur, he says, I do not make salah behind a person who denies the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or who does not recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above His arsh. If somebody does not admit and certify this, say this, that Allah is above His arsh, he says, I don't make salah behind that person. And this is not ghulu. This is the earlier ulama of the madahib. Imam Ahmad, his aqwal are many, but I'll mention one. He was asked, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala above His arsh, above the samawat, away far separate from His makhluk? And he says yes, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, confirmed, is above His arsh, which is above the samawat, separate from His makhluk that is beneath it. And this is the ta'ala, this is that how He is above. And His knowledge and power, they are everywhere at all times. The knowledge and power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He sees everything at all time. And He hears everything that at all time. And he says, certainly there is no doubt upon this, that Allah is above His arsh, and nothing escapes His knowledge, or His seeing, or His hearing. This is what the entire ummah, Imam Ahmad says, this is what the entire Muslim ummah of the past and present have been upon, ijma'an, with ijma', without any disagreement. And this is what we find in the earlier of this part of this ummah. We didn't have ilm al-kalam. We didn't have all this philosophy and mantiq and all this kinds of useless stuff that came later. In the earlier time, we had this dedication to the kitab of Allah, to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. But later, way later, when these fitan started to come, and these types, and many of the ulama that mentioned these made tawbah themselves. Like Abu Hassan al-Ashari, the people who call themselves Ashari after him. Read his own book, Al-Ibana, fi Usul al-Diyana. I have it. You can read his own book. He made tawbah. He said, I am upon the Aqidah of the Hanabila. He made his own tawbah. He wrote a whole book, and that was the last book he wrote. So and many others, not just him, and inshallah we'll discuss them in detail. So we know these three names, these three asma, al-husna, al-ali, al-a'la, al-muta'al. The next two that we'll discuss are also related together. Al-hafid and al-hafid. This is 45 and 46 in the tartib that we're studying. Hafadha, from the root words, meaning to preserve or to protect. Al-hafid, this is al-wazn فاعل ألف عين لام فاعل بالكسرة العين الحافظ والحفيظ على الوزن فعيل باسم مبالغة. And حفيظ is an exaggerated tense of حافظ, both meaning to preserve or to protect, but there are some particular meanings as having to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because to protect and preserve, even linguistically, has more than one meaning. One is when you physically protect something, and one is when you're in your knowledge you protect something. How, for example, somebody who memorized the Qur'an, today we call him al-hafid, somebody who's memorized. Even though he's not physically out there fighting or defending, but because he has learned it, he has memorized it. In the earlier istalah of ulama, somebody who had memorized a large number of ahadith, 50,000 or 100,000, depending on the ulama of jarh wa ta'deel, they would call him al-hafid, because he had protected all those ahadith by memorizing them. And the other meaning is somebody who physically protects. For example, if somebody attacks and somebody physically goes and protects them and preserves them from being harmed, it's also hifadha, protection. So here with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's also two meanings, as Ibn Jarir al-Tabari and others have mentioned. One is the meaning of alim. يعني الحفيظ بالمعنى العليم. That he has complete knowledge. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his ilm, in his knowledge, everything is preserved. The past, the present, the future, it's all in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing escapes the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing. And it's very important for us to understand. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has complete knowledge and all knowledge, then we should know that everything we have done is in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. And this should lead us to taqwa, fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's account for the sins that we've done in the past, for the mistakes we've made in the past. Al-Awza'i, Imam Al-Awza'i, he said something amazing. It amazed me because he said it at a time when they had no technology in comparison to what we have today. But Al-Awza'i, the Imam of Sham, he had his own madhab from the earlier Imam. He said that when I look at the majmu'ah, the collection from the Qur'an and ahadith, it is apparent to me that on the Day of Judgment, a person's entire life will be shown to them. Now imagine, they didn't have cameras or video or any of that at that time. Today we can conceptualize this because we have all this technology. But at that time, just based on the Qur'an and ahadith, he said that a person will be made to see his entire life on the Day of Judgment. And he will be questioned about every moment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Now imagine any one of us in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Day of Judgment, you're not in a rush. And one segment's 1,000 years. One segment is 50,000 years. Now imagine you're sitting there and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is playing your entire life in front of you. And every moment, imagine those moments that you thought nobody else saw you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw you. And He is Al-Hafiz. All of that is preserved with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no running out of memory with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unlimited. He has no limits. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Hafiz in that sense. That of being alim, that His knowledge, it preserves and protects everything. Everything is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then there is the meaning, the second meaning, which is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He protects the entire creation. He protects the samawat, He protects the ard, He protects the Muslim, He protects the kafir from many things. Imagine if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't protect the sama above us, the sky above us. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even one small portion of what's between the samawat, what's between the samawat and the ard is the ozone layer and the different layers, the 7 layers, which is not the same as the samawat. Samawat are much bigger. But these little layers that are between the earth and the sama, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took those away, imagine what would happen. The Muslim, the kafir, the animal, the plant, everything would be destroyed. So who protects us? Al-Hafiz, Al-Hafiz, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these kuffar who are out denying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala don't realize that even them, they're benefiting from the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These people don't realize the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look at our bodies. If you study science, you know that so many germs, so many different types of diseases are always around us. Bacteria and viruses always around us. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects us. Sometimes one of them affects you and you get sick and you turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but do you ever think your whole life, every single day, so many things are around you, but Allah protected you. So many ways to die. So many ways to be destroyed. So many ways to be misguided. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects us. So there is that general protection and then the particular protection that is given to the believers. And for the sake of time, I won't go in great detail about it, but I will mention to you, inshallah, 2 examples. One example is the Qur'an itself. And this is a nasiha to many of those du'at who used to write books on ulum al-Qur'an, and today they're not sure about how the Qur'an is preserved. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took the responsibility of preserving the Qur'an Himself. Even though the earlier books, like the Injil and the Torah and the Zabur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed them. They are the books from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But He made the makhluk, us as believers of those times, responsible for protecting it. And we did not. As humanity, we did not. No doubt, even everybody who studies the Bible and the sciences related to the preservation of the Bible will tell you that we do not have anything in the Bible today from that which Isa alayhi salam had. From the Injil, everything's been mixed up. Who's King James and who's Mark and Matthew and Luke and John and all these people who weren't even alive in the time of the Prophet Isa alayhi salam. So it's been changed. The Torah, even if you look at Jewish scholars, they'll tell you that the original Torah in the time of Musa is not with us today. That's why they depend more on rabbis and their works than the Torah itself. The Zabur, it's been changed. All of those things have been changed. But the Qur'an, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna nahnu nanzalna, subhanallah, look at this. Inna nahnu nazzalna. Look at the damaya here, from a linguistic perspective. Inna, with inna, and then na as a damir. Then nahnu, a second damir. Nazzalna, two more damaya right there. Pointing back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-dhikr. What is al-dhikr? Al-Qur'an. وَإِنَّا لَهُ الْحَافِظُونَ. إِنَّا لَهُ لَهَا الْحَافِظُونَ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and for it, we are the protectors. Al-Hafidhun. Al-Hafidh, one of the mentions of in the Qur'an is here. So here, who has taken the responsibility of the dhikr of the Qur'an? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why not a harf, not a letter of the Qur'an has been changed. And we have pages that have been carbon dated. You can Google this and look it up on the news. That have been carbon dated to the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. To the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. Surah Taha. And they found that every single letter, now obviously at that time they didn't have harakat. They had no tashkil, no fatha, dhamma, kasra. But every single letter is exactly the way the Mus'haf is today. The letters. We have the Mus'haf that were written in the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu, we still have it. And every single letter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved it. And this is the preservation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, another example, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects, is the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was in his house. And all of the kuffar had sent people from every different tribe in the Quraysh to kill the Prophet ﷺ. Armed, weapons, surrounding, no way to escape. Think about this. Here, strong men from each tribe within the Quraysh are there, armed, just waiting for the Prophet ﷺ to either come out or to be later up that they go and kill the Prophet ﷺ. Plan is made. The Prophet ﷺ has no army, no escape plan, nobody with him. Who protected the Prophet ﷺ? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's al-Hafidh. He protected the Prophet ﷺ that he walked from within them. And in the narration, as we mentioned the Darus on Sirah, he even put dust on their heads. He put dust on the heads of each one of them and walked out of that trap they had made, and they could not harm the Prophet ﷺ. That's the protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Hafidh and al-Hafidh. He has mentioned these asma in the Qur'an. All of them. If we look at al-Hafidh, it is mentioned 3 times in the Qur'an. Al-Hafidh, once in the Qur'an. So when we look at it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has all of these asma, and all of them have a meaning to us. So when we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this name, there are a few things we should think about. One, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Hafidh, al-Hafidh, in the sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has recorded and remembers and preserves all knowledge, everything in His memory. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for those sins and to cover our sins. To cover them in such a way that on the Day of Judgment they will not even be shown to us. And if we want to do this, we should cover the mistakes of our brothers and sisters in Islam. Cover their sins. Cover their mistakes. Don't be one of those people that if you find somebody's mistake or a sin they do or something wrong, you want to be the one who broadcasts it everywhere. Because we know the one who covers their sins, covers and protects and hides the faults of their brothers and sisters in dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cover and hide and protect their sins, meaning from being seen even, from even being taken account on the Day of Judgment. And secondly, we shouldn't fear the makhluk. We should fear al-Khaliq. Because He is al-Hafid, He is al-Hafid. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects you, nobody can harm you. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects you, nobody can harm you. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the proper aqeedah and the proper understanding upon these names. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
إلا تنصروه فقد نصره الله